You don't want to take a really good system and lay it down on top of a broken process and break it to fit your broken process, okay? How do we prevent that from happening? And believe me, this will happen without you even realizing it's happening, because we are so trapped in our subconscious about how things have been done. It's not even like we're kind of being awful and saying, oh, this is how it's always been done, we're not going to change it. It's not even that. We have ingrained in our... Hi, I'm Pam Pryor, and this is the Cash Flow Podcast, where we talk about everything money related in your business. Without further ado, let's jump right in. Hey, and welcome back to Cash Flow in our new and awesome Bucks News and Brews segment. Today, what's our brew? Our brew is called Tröegs Trogonator. We'll talk about that in a minute and show you a cool picture since I've now learned how to hold it up. We will, there's our dog piping in with his input. Then we're going to talk about our news for the week. And the news for the week is about, is AI coming for you as an entrepreneur? Because I found out it was coming for me, and I'll share that down the road. And then finally, on today's Buck's Tale, we're going to continue a story we started last week about what the next chunk of steps is in buying software for your business to really automate things and fix processes so that you as an entrepreneur can actually get information about what the heck is going on in your business, which is what real finance should be all about. So let's jump in without much more ado. So let's talk about the beer, the brew of the week. The brew of the week is Tröegs Trogonator, which I think you can see right there since I've now learned how to hold it up. And here's what it looks like in the glass. Now, you're going to notice a couple things. It doesn't have as big of a head, or the head diminished pretty quickly, which basically means it's a little less fizzy. So I'm anticipating I'm not going to love it as much as most clear, really crisp beers or clear, crisp IPAs. It is a maltier beer. When I look at the notes, it says that it's going to have hints of caramel, toasted grain, and malt. It's called a chocolate Munich Pilsner. So I'm going to do a sniff. I will tell you that Pilsner is a little bit of a weird word to me here because Pilsners to me always look light and crisp and bubbly, and this does not. This looks a little thicker and heavier and creamier. And let's take a sip and see what we think. Yeah, it is less bubbly than I like. It's a little bit more like I don't know how to explain it, but a cream almost that you're drinking that's got that caramel and chocolate taste, which is very good. Not necessarily my kind of beer, but not bad. But let's talk about it for a minute because they do have an IPA that I love, which I'll hit on another podcast. This is just not necessarily my taste. So a couple things. It's an 8.2% ABV. So let's see how clear I am by the time we get to the talk about what's going to happen with AI in your business. But it's also malty. And that's the difference between hops and malt are the two things that I think are so important here. And I have tended towards hoppier beer as opposed to maltier beer, which is why I think this one is a little lower on my, let's call it my beer KPI meter. If I were going to give this a rating on my meter, it would be like a 4 out of 10 for me. However, I think it is a very good malt beer for people who love malt beers. And these guys that founded this, and I love this story, it was in 1997, and it was two kids in their young 20s, 22 and 24, brothers, Chris and John, and their last name is Tröegenator. And they decided to start this brewery and had to live with all the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. In fact, it's such a great story that we've put a link in the show notes here so you can click on it and kind of read their story. And you'll probably see a lot you're familiar with in the trials and tribulations of entrepreneurship. So I'm glad they succeeded because, like I said, I actually bought this beer in a sort of a collection of, 4 different beers, try them all, because I knew I liked their IPA so much, which we'll do on one of our upcoming shows. But this one in particular, I give a 4. Tröegs overall, I give 100,000% on my scale of 1 to 10. And one of the things we might do is a little brewery tour because these guys live pretty close to me. They're in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, and have been there since 1997, which just amazingly to me now is 20, 27 years of operation. 1997 still feels like yesterday for me. So this is a really cool try for us. What they say is it's really good with things like tacos that have a pretty heavy spice element to them, because this is a smoother beer, so it helps kind of calm that down. But this is what we're going to be doing today while we talk to you about news. So today on our What's News segment is a little bit scary, and I don't mean for it to be. I mean for it really to be a sort of a call to action for you, as it has been for me. And the question is AI coming for you? And what I did in preparation for this segment is just type in there accounting and CFO AI tools, because I want to see and be aware of what is coming down the pike that could replace me, number one, that I need to be aware of so that I can integrate it into what I'm doing and continue to define what we do that can't be replaced by AI. And it's actually helping in my particular business because bookkeeping is a commodity, right? And truly, bookkeeping itself could be totally replaced by AI. In fact, when I did the lookup here, I came up with a website called, what the heck was it called? Hang on. DOCYT. I'm going to call it Docket AI. And you may want to look it up because it's all about delivering real-time accounting. So if you think about this, that's in direct competition to what I do. I deliver CFO services and bookkeeping, and this is saying, hey, there's an AI tool that can totally replace what you're doing. But here's the thing. What I want you to do once you identify these tools is two things. One is peel under the layer a little bit. You're a technician. You really understand your service. So I know accounting. I know bookkeeping like the back of my hand. And I also know what people who consume bookkeeping and accounting information as entrepreneurs do and don't know about what really is good accounting and good bookkeeping. So when I look at these services, yeah, they can actually do some stuff. But if this were the only thing that an entrepreneur had in place, they would fail miserably in getting good information in order to make solid accounting decisions. I know that, but now my job and your job when you do this same search on whatever it is that you do is to identify what is that thing that you do differently? What is that special sauce that you add that makes this and how you do it so much better than the particular AI tool that's out there, coming for you, so to speak. So that's the first thing. But the second thing I would say is don't defy it. Embrace it, which I am doing with all of these. So I'm identifying what are the things in my practice with what we do that can really be done easier with AI. Why not get them and incorporate them in the services that I offer? It's almost a white labeling, right? But it's a white labeling with the extra sauce. I know for a fact that every single entrepreneur that I work with is getting a whole lot more benefit than how to classify transactions, how to reconcile a bank account. They don't really care about that. That's the making the sausage part. What they care about is what is the meaningful information I can get from my accounting system to make decisions from, and how do I make decisions from it? So I've done a couple things. One is I've identified what is the special sauce that we add. One is I know we can make those numbers tell the story that the entrepreneur thinks of when they think about their business. No AI tool can do that because they don't know my entrepreneur that way. They don't know how he thinks, feels, and reacts to different environmental phenomenon that affect how he absorbs what he absorbs or she absorbs, right? I can do that. AI can't do that. So that's cool. So I want to make sure that I clearly articulate that when I'm talking to people. But the second thing is, hey, there's some stuff in here I could really automate. We could get people their data faster. We could create the reports that are meaningful to them much faster as we start to look at some of these tools. So here's the tip for me today. Go out there and Google whatever it is you do. I create barbecue sauce recipes. I coach people on I life coach people on health and wellness. I do publishing. Go ahead and put your particular career thing and go in the Google search or whatever search engine you use and say, hey, what is AI doing on this front? Be aware of it. Do two things with it. One is know what differentiates you from the AI. And number two, know how you can utilize the AI to help move your business along. All right? There is your what's news for today. AI is coming for you. Be aware of it, embrace it, and let it be part of your momentum instead of something that derails you. And today on Buck's Tale, what are we going to do? If you listened last week, if you didn't, go back and pick up last week's episode because it's a very important precedent to what we're going to talk about today. One of the things entrepreneurs do, because they get very frustrated with not having the financial information that they need, and rightfully so, they don't, is they'll often see a software ad or talk to somebody else at a mastermind who's bought this software and has implemented it, and it's working beautifully, and all their problems are gone. And all that is wonderful and true, but there is a way to implement software in your business, and there is a way not to implement software in your business. And if you listened to last week's story, you heard about John and how the first round of software implementation really was not done in the best way. The good news was we realized that. We were able to help him exit from that software, and now we're doing our next software implementation to do what he really wanted to do in the first place, which essentially was all he cared about is I want really good financial information to make business decisions from. Piece of cake, right? Last week's episode, you'll go back and listen to that and get caught up to where we are right now. But as of right now, because of what we did last week, we know what our user requirements are, we know why we need them, and we know where the data is in our system to go get it. Okay, those are three very important things for us to understand. Now the point is, and I'll reiterate what I said last week, you don't want to take a really good system and lay it down on top of a broken process and break it to fit your broken process, okay? How do we prevent that from happening? And believe me, this will happen without you even realizing it's happening because we are so trapped in our subconscious about how things have been done. It's not even like we're kind of being awful and saying, oh, this is how it's always been done, we're not going to change it. It's not even that. We have ingrained in our subconscious the systems and the processes that have gotten us to where we are today. And it's very hard to think outside the box of those systems and processes because it's breaking what's been drilled into us and is now muscle memory. The truth of the matter is, if you're going to upgrade to a good piece of software, you're going to be breaking all of that stuff that is currently in muscle memory and retraining it. Because the truth of the matter is, your muscle memory method to get your processes in place were great, and they worked wonderfully for you as an entrepreneur or as a founder and just getting things off the ground. To scale and to grow, those are probably not the best processes to set your entire business on top of for its future. So you know you need software, but here's the thing. Before you need software, you need to fix your processes. Because the thing that's the piece that most people miss is when you buy a piece of software, they're experts in some piece of a process. If you buy SKU Vault, let's say, they are experts in keeping track of inventory. If you buy Shopify, they are experts in managing online sales. If you buy QuickBooks, they are expert in generating your financial statements. But any one piece of that software doesn't do the trick for you. There are very few systems out there that cover and fix all of your process problems. So how do we go about this? Like with all that software out there, some of it very focused on very specific pieces of what you do, and others of it focused on, we can solve all your problems. How do you kind of break away from that and delineate what you need? And there are 3 steps to do that. And the first thing I would do is say, hey, okay, let's document what our processes are today. And I know that sounds awful. The word document often makes most entrepreneurs kind of go, I'm not going to do that. I need a beer, whatever that might be. Gets a little better with every sip. But what is our process today? And you don't have to be fancy about this. You don't have to buy the most expensive software to map out a process. You can draw this on your phone. You can draw it on your iPad. You can scribble it in a notebook. And what I want to know here is, for every single operational process in your business, from how you get your customers to when they pay you, to how you identify what you need to source or buy until you pay that bill and it's used in your business, from when you recruit somebody to when they leave your company. Whatever those processes are, how do they work today? And not at the really detailed granular level, but just at the very high level. So let's just take an example of our process for getting a customer. We go on a stage, we get leads, we put them on our lead system. Some of them turn into opportunities. We create an opportunity, we send a proposal, they accept the proposal, we start invoicing them. Then we collect on those invoices. That's how simple a process definition can be. Don't get crazy that it's got to be all the right boxes or an engineering diagram. Just draw it however it makes sense to you. For every one of the processes that hold the information we identified in the last podcast, okay? All those little pieces of information. What are the 4 or 5, there won't be more than that, processes in your business that make those things happen? Put it on paper, okay? What you'll see, it'll break your heart a little bit, is a lot of rework and retesting and corrections and error work and all of that. Don't sweat it. Just put it on paper. Now what we're going to do is get somebody in with you, and this is where we add some real value with our clients to say, what's the ideal process here? We're going to identify the end game from last week's video. Here's what we need to know. Here's where all the data points are. What is a real efficient process that goes from A, where all the data points are, to Z, where the information is that gives the owner what he needs to know about his business, and what's the most efficient way to get from A to Z? Do we have to go through all those letters individually, or can we skip a few and just zoom right to the end? So we're going to map what's currently happening, and we're going to map an ideal process. And I'll give you another example. In one particular client that I have, and this is the story that I'm continuing on from last week, they put their information in on a piece of paper. It got hand-keyed into a system. There were errors made in that hand keying, and down the road, the ultimate person who had to create the financials had to go back and find the piece of paper, make the corrections here at the very end of the process, so that when the vendor billed us for a part, we paid the right amount. It was literally that crazy. And I shouldn't say crazy. This is what evolves in any logically fast-growing business, right? We're running 100 miles an hour. We don't have time to clean up the junk behind us as we plow through the next wall. But when you're going to make an investment in software, is the time to stop, breathe, and really look at what am I doing and what's the result I'm trying to get. And that's all we're identifying here. Step 1 in this process is, what am I actually doing today? Step 2 is, what's the most efficient way to get me that information? Okay? Step 3 then is to identify what the gap is. What is the gap between what you're doing today and what you're going to do or would want to do in an ideal process? So for example, with this same process, we have this scrap of paper in this particular case where all of the information related to the service job was recorded with grease stains and everything, and it's popped in an inbox for the accountant, right? And we have input into the system where we really have identified, here's the data that we think we picked up from this scrap of paper. And then the accountant at the very end of this process has to go and piece it all back together again. So that's our broken process. Well, what's the ideal process? We talked about the fact that we want to get at the very first point that something is learned, like the price of a product, who the vendor is, how many we're going to get, that's the point at which data gets into whatever software we're going to buy. And it gets in there correctly and accurately and never needs to be adjusted again. We're going to order it. We're going to buy it. When we buy it, we're going to refer to the order. When we pay it, we're going to refer to the bill. And when we collect for it, we're going to refer back to what we put in for the bill. All of it happens and flows naturally. There's no error correction. So what's the gap between what we're doing today And that beautiful, clean process is that we input every piece of data only once, and we never correct it. Once we identify that gap, there are going to be a few things we do with it. But one is, because I promise you there will be things that have just happened because they're history and habit, that you're going to look at it and go, oh, well, we don't need to do that anymore. We can just eliminate this step. That stuff will happen. But the other thing that will happen is you'll get a very clear picture of what you want your software to do, right? And then, and only then, after the 3 steps from last week's podcast and the 3 steps from this week, are you ready to go out and start looking at the available software options? Because then you're going to see, okay, I've mapped the ideal process. What software option does this thing? I know what the gap is, so I know what I'm going to have to change in my existing process, and I know what I want to have available in that software. What now, as the 3rd step, are these software options that do this? And I'll give you an example. I actually have another client who has both SKU Vault and Shopify. They don't need both. Shopify actually does all of the things that SKU Vault does and all the things that Shopify does. But because we didn't go through beforehand and say, hey, what do we actually need and what does the software provide, they just had gone and bought this multiple pieces of software that different people had told them about. One at one mastermind, one at another mastermind. And so now what we had there before we got it all fixed was patchwork, which didn't help us. So here's the 1, 2, 3 for today. After you know from the last podcast exactly what your user requirements are, let's sit down and map out what's happening today and just how crazy is our today process. And I promise you, you'll find crazy in your processes. Don't take it personally. It's not a bad thing. There's no judgment. It just happens as businesses grow and as you take a business from an idea to being a really successful entrepreneur and founder. So congrats on that. Don't judge yourself for where it's been, okay? That's really important. But the second thing is, if this were a perfect world, how would this happen? And this is where you may need some help with this. Somebody who's used to process implementation, somebody who's used to knowing what you want to get out at the other end as a business owner, to know about your finances. If you've read my book, Your First CFO, you know that there are certain things you want to know about your business. And so those are the things that you want to make sure you're getting out of the end of each of these processes. And then once you've defined those processes, all right, what software is out there to actually do this work for me? And it might be a combination of 1 or 2 pieces of software. There might be one fully operating software that goes from start to finish for you for everything that you need. But don't start looking for the software until you've handled what we covered last week and what we've covered this week. Don't take new, good, fresh, best business practice software and drop it down on top of broken processes and break the software to fit it. Instead, as today's job tells you, number 1, what are you doing today? You'll identify what sucks about it. Number 2, what's the ideal process? Now you know the gap. Now let's go look for the software that gets us from there to where we're going. You all have a great week, and cheers. I hope that video was helpful, and I hope you subscribe to my channel for more information on finances in your business.